All right. Hello, everybody. How are you, Seth? You
I
good?
am great,
Can we hear
Asaf. Good to
you?
see you, man.
Great. We hear
So
each
I'm
other.
glad I'm glad you remembered that we had our time change in the United
I,
States. So that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're, we're
Let's
one
let's
hour closer.
let's tell everyone that we remembered. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Great Transition. Welcome, whether you're new here or old here. It doesn't matter. We're happy to have you. Today, we're gonna do a deep dive on the world of your thoughts, my thoughts, Seth's thoughts, everyone's thoughts. What's going on with our thoughts? Do they have any power beyond what we think? What are thoughts? Maybe we'll get into that. Maybe we'll talk about how are we connected through our thoughts, if at all. If so, then how does that work? And where do they fit? Where do our thoughts fit in the great transition that we're all going through, in everything that the world is going through, in this whole messy, interesting, epic time that the world is getting into in this 21st century? So we'll try to get into that. Seth, you want to start us off?
Changes are happening across the world at an unprecedented pace now, and it's a result of the interconnection of people.
Right.
This past century, that's that the hockey stick curve in everything, in technology, in I mean the computer that got us to the moon, that got this first spaceship to the moon, is not as powerful as like what's in the hand of every teenager today. So everything is spreading very quickly, and
Mhm.
the coronavirus spread over the entire world to every corner of the world very quickly. So it's not so important to us if it came from bat soup, or if it came from some laboratory, if it's a biological. I mean, it's
Yeah.
important, but for the
Bat
purpose of this
soup or,
conversation,
or lab soup, whatever it is.
lab soup, bat
Yeah.
soup,
Uh,
biological weapon, whatever, we already know that the world is filled with indifferent, egotistical people exploiting the earth one way or another.
yeah.
And this is so the imbalance in this, because if everyone was in a caring, you would never, these things wouldn't emerge in a harmonious environment. So regardless of how it emerged and spread all over the world, either if it did emerge naturally, it would have been suppressed naturally. If we were in some kind of natural system, these things would have happened quickly. But the fact that it spread so quickly and infected so many people so quickly is a result of the state of the world now, and the state of us. So humanity is now trying to discover how the virus is transmitted, and what to do about it. So we have masks, we have social distancing, we have washing our hands. My kids have been remote for a year in school, work. 85% of the office space in Manhattan is vacant because people are remote. Borders are closed. You can't travel to every country. There was a story we talked about a bunch of months ago about some fishermen who were out to sea. They went out to sea after they had quarantined, and they became infected while at sea. So it turns out
Yeah.
that the experts found that the virus is spread through the air. Through the air transmitted drops. It's not just that someone has to sneeze on you or something. So we have now at the office and different places, you have to be 6 feet away from people. At the restaurant, you have to be 6 feet away from people. I'm
Mm.
not sure how many, 2 meters. I don't know what that is, but these fishermen were out at sea. So here's the thing with science, though. They can start to understand what it is, how it's moving. Okay, it's going through the air. If we cover like this, if we do this, if we don't travel, we can affect it. But science, of course, doesn't know the root cause of the virus. So first of
Yeah.
all, so now let's get into our specialty here. First of all, humanity is connected in a single field. So when I wake up in the morning and I have a negative thought, or which I would never do, but suppose I did, or if I look at someone on the street, or if I see some video on YouTube and I start having negative thoughts about a person, I'm causing all kinds of various effects upon that person.
Okay.
Our thoughts carry
All
the
right.
most destructive and the most benevolent power in nature. So the virus is transmitted through our thoughts. And since we keep using only our negative thoughts, no method can effectively combat it. No medicine will be able to solve it. I mean, we can. Okay, so for example, now
That was a big, that was a big
that was really big. That was really
bombshell.
big, and
So
yeah,
maybe say it again. Let's see what we're getting
we have
into
another
here.
we have another 55 minutes to open this up. The
Okay.
virus is transmitted through our thoughts. Okay, and because we keep using 99.9% of our thoughts negatively, no method that we can come up with, AstraZeneca, vitamin D,
Hmm.
social distancing, nothing will be able to solve this problem completely. So look at what's happening now. We have I heard today that in Brazil it's out of control. In Sao Paulo, the hospitals don't have any more oxygen,
Oh boy.
um, and
Yeah.
they're overloading.
Yeah.
So forget about whether or not these things are political or not, because I could tell you that the climate in the United States before the election and after the election,
Mm-hmm.
the presidential election, is totally different, because there's as many deaths, there's more deaths now than there were last summer, but the restaurants are opening and they want the kids to go back to school. So let's just put all the other variables on the side about politics and things like that, and just focus on, there is a virus. Okay, it's killing people, it's spreading around the world. And this new thing, there's a whole drama now about you know so who's
Yeah,
going to be
like the
vaccinated,
vaccine.
right?
Do they
Right. So
work? Do they not work? Which ones work? How much they work? Yeah,
and there's another thing that
yeah.
does there's other scientists now saying that by mass vaccinating, it somehow makes the virus more resilient.
To our
So this is
to Yeah, I heard that. That is
That's a
scary.
whole
That is
other
scary.
thing. And yeah,
Hmm.
okay. So
But
even
basically,
if there's
they're saying that mass vaccinations might have an effect of helping the virus create an escape from the immune system altogether.
Okay,
Which
so
anyway, yeah,
I'm trying not to get too
yeah,
deep into that. I want to stay
right,
focused on thoughts, but the point is that the root, to identify the root of the problem, and then in order to get to a solution, we deal with it from the root. So sometimes if you hurt yourself, you may put a band-aid on, but you also have to, like, then get in the car, go to the hospital and get the stitches, right? So you could do something in the meantime, but you have to deal with the root of it.
yeah,
So um, we need to realize that the cure for all of this is the connection between people and what we are transmitting to each other. So if our relations and our thoughts become kind towards one another, no virus will have its way with us. It's all of these negative thoughts that everyone's having towards each other that basically invade our body and manifest in us as illness. So we have a problem, though, and that's what we're going to talk
hmm
about here. The problem is we don't really have any control over our thoughts. I don't know what anyone, I mean, if I'm becoming sick because what other people are thinking about me, and I can't control what other people are thinking about me, I can't even control what I'm thinking about myself. If I open up some YouTube video and I see some idiot, doing something, I'm just immediately criticizing him. Or I'm driving in the street and someone does something, I just immediately criticize. Or I see someone who looks better than me and I criticize. I see someone who has more money than me, I just criticize. We don't even have control over all of these thoughts. It's just like firing weapons. If we could see every negative thought that everyone's having all day, could you imagine what that would look like? Imagine if there's like
right.
a red line or something firing out from everyone's head.
And
The world would just be
there's those that we notice in us, and those that we don't even notice. Like you said, like if
so much of
yeah,
so much of it is unconscious. So we want to aim our thoughts. We have to understand that thought is power. We have to understand the power behind thought, where it comes from. We have to then figure out how to aim those thoughts towards a certain goal. For everyone to, we, the process of doing that literally creates a force field. I mean, I'm sure everyone has been to a concert or been to a sports game, or the last day of school. Walking into the building on the last day of school is totally different than walking into the building in the middle of February.
right.
There's an and you feel something in the air. You just, people act different. It's something that happens. You go into a concert, there's the music and there's the people, but there's also some energy. There's something that's happening in the air. So we can literally create a force field that radiates love and unity, and
Mm,
it
mm,
eradicates all of the negative factors.
mm-hmm.
All of the viruses are biological. So we're always learning about the still, the vegetative, the inanimate, and then the speaking. So we are existing at that highest level. The virus is at the bottom of the whole thing, at the bottom of the pyramid. So really, we don't have anything to fear. We have to understand how the body works, which we really don't have any idea how the body works. I mean, Einstein told us E equals MC squared, which basically means that there's enough power in a handful of water to, power a city. We don't understand what forces we're dealing with. And I know that this probably sounds so far out to everyone listening. I'll even push the envelope a little further. There could be a situation where a person could even drink poison, but being in the right field of thoughts, it just doesn't affect the system. 10 years ago, I told you about this, but I was dabbling in all kinds of different. I was just trying some different other things that were out there to see like what's going on in the world. I had found myself, very isolated, and I wanted to see like what's happening in the world. And I went to this to a weekend event. It's a few hundred people there. Everybody got into a really heightened state. It's not spiritual state, but like a very heightened state that affects the mind and the mood and the body chemistry. And me, along with another couple hundred people, walked across hot coals. If there was hot coals like on the floor right here, right now, and I tried to walk across it, one person there actually got burned. I saw one person, maybe more. So that should illustrate the concept a little bit. It's sometimes actually when you're in a heightened state, you do something, you're like, oh my, like that knife should have cut me just now. Like how, but I'm fine. I mean, everyone probably can think of a situation where you're like, oh wait, I'm okay. Because of our state, the body reacts differently. We're not even talking about spiritual dimensions, but even the body's chemistry
Well,
functions differently.
it's very, that there's very well documented effects of placebo effects, for instance. Placebo and nocebo, by the way, which is the opposite of a placebo effect, meaning, you give people a real kind of medicine, and you give the control group, like control group, you give real medicine, and then you give the experiment group the placebo, and then the placebo turns out to work. Or the other way
Mm-hmm.
around, you know so there's definitely these effects of mind and body, and this whole mind and body connection, and there's definitely a case to say that when it comes to COVID, we have no idea what is going on, and all the uncertainty that exists right now in the world with regards to COVID, even though there's vaccines, that have been developed very quickly in an impressive, speed and everything, we are still at such an uncertain situation. There's big questions. Not won't get deeper into this now, but maybe a whole set of questions that we're not even asking ourselves is what you just said, which is, um, what about our attitude to everything that's happening? What about our thoughts about each other? What about our inner world? How does that affect even things like the rate of infection of COVID? Again, there's well documented effects of how being well connected to other people, positively connected to your social group, feeling positive social relations, positive social connections, how that affects not just in general your health, but specifically your immune system. So we're not even looking to that, in terms of policy, in terms of what to do, in terms of how to actually deal with this global situation where we're all interdependent, where there's a global pandemic that influences all of us, and we know that how we influence, how we affect each other, think about each other, that influences our immune system, and yet it's not something that we can, use as a weapon, as a tool, as a device. We are
Well, it
human.
specifically is something we can use. We just need to know how,
That's what
and
I'm
it needs
saying.
to become popular to
We
do it.
yes, we are not. What I'm trying to say is the modern 21st century person, relies on the you called it band-aids basically. You said like if you have a problem, you need to put like if you cut your hand or something, maybe you need stitches and you need that right now, no doubt. We should be trying to develop vaccines because that's what we know. That's okay, that's part of the what we can do, but the deeper level, the causal level, the level at which things emerge from, and potentially that level from which we can defend, protect ourselves in a collective way, is something that we're not even activating, because while the modern person, has science and medicine that we can rely on to an extent, we don't uh, know anything when it comes to our inner world and the outer world and how they interact. Our thoughts, our emotions, our collective states of being, and how that manifests in the world outside of us. That relationship is something that is just so far from modern person.
It's so far.
Anyway,
It's
yeah.
it's it's really pretty close though. It's like it's so far from
Mm-hmm.
imagining that the solution is good thoughts. It's so far from, I mean, everyone would just say, oh, it's mysticism, it's whatever. It's so far from saying that the virus, the coronavirus, comes from our negative attitudes towards each other. But when it's if it can bubble to the surface, it will ever it's so natural that a person would be like, oh, of course it is. It's not something that's like aliens come down from outer space in some ship and change everything. It will feel completely natural.
Hmm. The the I was in the last couple of seconds seeing just like what's happening in the chats here a little bit. So I'll just mention that you guys, wherever you're watching us, we are attentive to what's happening in the chat, and Chris here behind the scenes is also helping us. So if you do want to throw some questions at us or anything you want us to go deeper into, the chat is the place to do it, and we can communicate. So we're taking a look at what you're writing there as well. And also, I'll say just hello to all those different places. People are connected from a bunch of different places. It's always great to see. Um, yeah. Sorry, just had to do that. Where were we?
I think you're about to tell me something.
Okay. I was about to tell you something. There is something I think is pretty exciting, um, in this talk. On this topic of thoughts and so on. Let's ask the question: are we connected through our thoughts? Is there an actual connection between the thoughts that I'm thinking, the thoughts that you're thinking, everyone in the chat, and everyone in the world? How does that connection actually work? And is there any kind of testimony to that connection? So check this out. There's a really cool science project that's been going on for about 2 decades now. This is wait. Let me show you my. Uh, there you go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
There's
the
there's
Global
something
Consciousness
called
Project.
yes. There's something called the Global Consciousness Project, right? This is a project that is headed by a researcher called Roger Nelson, and it started from Princeton University about 2 decades ago. Um, if I understood correctly, now there's about 100 different scientists and researchers around the world that are involved in this. And get this, here's what they're doing. They want to try to measure whether there's a presence of collective thinking and collective emotions in humanity. How do they go about that, you might ask? So here's what they're doing. They have something called random number generators in about 70 different places around the world. These random number generators, they're basically they're just like pieces of hardware that produce random numbers all the time. They're based on like something called quantum tunneling. What it means is basically that they're producing sequences that are unpredictable, that are completely random, that shouldn't have any kind of order. They're just spewing zeros and ones, sequences of
Okay.
zeros and ones around the world, right? And so the hypothesis is that if human beings in some places around the world are, for some reason, like global events that may engage millions of people's minds and hearts at the same time, things, good things that happen, bad things that happen, big celebrations, disasters, terrorist attacks, things like that, elections, the idea is that if there are some events that engage the hearts and minds of millions of people, then maybe these random number generators will show some change in their randomness. Meaning, if they will show, suddenly they will go out of their random sequences into a more order kind of pattern. Meaning, if the random number generators suddenly show deviate from randomness, whether it's up or down, doesn't matter, but more towards order, towards structure, towards patterns, that could be a statistical indication of the presence of some coherent consciousness, some coherent thinking that is present. Does that make sense
Somehow
with me
the
so far?
machines. So if there's some event that happens in the world, it
Yeah.
affects the global consciousness, and somehow if the global consciousness is in the same wavelength, it affects these machines somehow.
Well, if it affects them, then it might indicate um, you can't deduce causality here. You can't say exactly that this created that. But if you do that for a long time, and they've been doing that for about 20 years, and I'll tell you in a second what they're finding. But if these random number generators for some reason go out of randomness into order, that might be a result of some coherence
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, that is happening around them. So this is a very it's a very statistically based kind of project and kind of science. And what they're doing is so they have basically, look, if I go here, they have a list. Yeah, here we go. So here's a let me show you, where was it? Um, yeah, all of these, you see that there's this endless list. Maybe this way you can see it better. Yeah, you see this table?
Mm-hmm.
This is basically all of the events that they've been documenting from 1998. So there was some U.S. airstrikes in Afghanistan in '98. There was 2001, right? Let's look for New Year's, U.S. election, Earth Day, terror, September 11, right? 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of things happen. So it's not like they are specifically documenting these events. The random number generators just go, and after an event happened, they go, okay, let's see what happened in the data in that time of, say, September 11 or George Floyd or any other event that has engaged.
Christmas Day, New
Yeah,
Year's, whatever.
whatever.
Okay.
So they have this endless list of all those events where they went into the data and tested it. So let me show you a few examples. I sent Chris a few examples to show if you can, Chris, can you show something? There are some of these graphs showing the
By the
data
way,
of
cheers
what they found.
to Patricia, who is joining us using battery backup power. Well done.
Wow. She has a power outage. We're with you. You're with us. Uh, it's good to hear. Okay, so here it is. The Yeah. So this is September 11. What you see in the red line is basically the data from the random number generators. And what this is, so if the number stays, if the numbers that the sequences that they produce stay random, what you're supposed to see is that this fluctuating red line is always kind of close to the zero, right? And this is a documentation of the data from what happened, at the time, and I think up to 2 days after is what you're seeing here. Or this is just the hours. This is the hours surrounding the event. Actually, they have all kinds of data. So this is again what you're seeing here when the red line goes up. You see how it goes up for hours there.
Yep.
That
Yep.
shows deviation from randomness, meaning suddenly these random number generators are showing more and more similar numbers. Let's look at another example. Let's look at the next one, Chris. Yeah. Okay. What is this? Okay. This is a couple months ago. This is last year. Uh, March 11. What happened on March 11? Remember?
No, we were together in Tel Aviv in February. I
That's
don't remember what
right.
happened in March. They locked
Okay.
everyone
Well,
down in March. I don't
well,
remember.
what?
I don't remember the
So
beginning of the
March
lockdowns.
11 is the day. This is the day that the World Health Organization declares COVID as a global pandemic.
Mm,
And once again, and the information spreads gradually, on the news, and then what you're seeing is again deviation from randomness. So the red line there was supposed to stay random, right? It was supposed to stay close to zero, basically. Let's look at another example there, Chris. So this is last one I want to show. Trump rally, the insurrection, the attacks on Capitol Hill. Again, deviation from randomness. Okay, so you got the idea. You got the idea. Also, it's interesting that even in New Year's, like where there's this kind of celebration of the new year that's happening from one place to another place to another place, this chain reaction, so to speak. So again, their data shows consistently that there's a deviation in randomness that's happening in the data every time there's New Year, basically. So of course, there's a lot of there's a lot of ways to criticize this experiment from a scientific perspective, but I gotta say, this is some interesting stuff. After 20 years of collecting data and seeing these random number generators, showing unequivocally something, they're calculating that the odds of that happening by chance are about trillion to one. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. By the way, here's an anecdote. I don't know if you're aware of it, but this Roger Nelson researcher that I mentioned, he was actually in touch with us about maybe 15 years ago, definitely over a decade ago. And he was there was a discussion. There was a discussion to maybe put some of these random number generators in our global events. Like we do our global events, the global unity events with people from all
mhm.
around the world, where we're all, now with COVID, it's all virtual, but we used to do these things, these big events with thousands of people from all around the world. So there was some discussion with him. It didn't happen. I can't remember why, but anyway, just an interesting anecdote. So why am I You with me? You're there?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm waiting
You're
for
still
the. I'm
alive?
waiting. You're pulling back the string on the bow. I'm waiting for you to fire the arrow here.
Right. Okay. So the what does Kabbalah say about this? How would Kabbalah explain this? And this is very I think this is it's first of all, it's interesting that, some scientists are looking into some effects and looking into some clues and hints as to how we are connected through our thoughts or through our inner world without being conscious about it. And that, from a Kabbalistic perspective, is so, it's such a an interesting and relevant thing that is happening right now, that we are starting to become. This project is happening for what, 20 years? We're starting to become more aware of how much there is a world that connects us that we are not aware of. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Th-
it's
th-
incredible.
this is
It's really we have to almost have to convince ourselves of it first. With a child, when a child learns, they have to do the action and then they understand. You can't really intellectually explain something to a child that's beyond their level, so to speak. And humanity, in order to go through this transition, there's a part we for sure. I mean, we constantly say it's education, education, education. We
mm,
have to give a person a framework for the mind, but part of it is we have to do it like the child, and then we'll discover that it's really happening.
mm,
Just to try and go out and convince everyone that our thoughts, Deborah says, can the negative thoughts from random people and beasts affect us? Yes, Deborah, that's exactly what we're saying. That the reason we see the state of the world as it is right now is because everyone is thinking negatively about everyone. We can't even help it. So, um, carry on, my brother.
yeah. So the it's this again, I find this really cool because we are gradually moving from unconscious connection towards conscious connection. Gradually, we're not there yet, but from a Kabbalistic perspective, we are an unconscious collective entity. That's exactly what is happening in this world. We are independently conscious, but we are collectively unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
We feel ourselves as separated from each other. We feel that I have my thoughts, you have your thoughts, I have my emotions, you have your emotions, and we try to live life like that. We live life believing that we are our own world. But just like our outer world is connected, and COVID is now showing this to us so clearly, we can't even breathe next to each other without being afraid of infecting each other. We're gradually becoming conscious of, aware of, that we can't even think without affecting each other. That's what's really happening. We are on the way to become collectively conscious, and specifically because we are now independently conscious. You know what I mean? Like, so one more. There's a quote from Rabash, Kabbalistic quote here that I want to show. Chris, can you show the quote from Rabash from the Spiritual Conception article? Yeah. Okay. Check this out. I thought this is really relevant when I looked at all this global consciousness project stuff. So here's how Rabash explains this to us, right? Rabash is like huge Kabbalist, our teacher's teacher. So he says this: after the shattering of the collective soul, the created beings are considered broken, dead vessels. That is, their vessels are immersed in self reception, separated from the spiritual life of bestowal. However, a spark has remained in them in order to sustain the vessels so they'll be able to rise and be revived. Let's just unpack this in a minute. So we are all a collective entity that Kabbalists refer to as a collective soul. We are all one thing. That one thing was went through a process called shattering. We're not going to go deeper into that, but even just from the term itself, you can understand that this one collective entity was shattered to many pieces. What exactly is that shattering? Is it actually a shattering? Is it a shattering only in our perception? Do we feel that we are shattered? There's a whole world of questions to ask about that. But this collective entity went through some process called shattering, and now each and every piece of it is considered a broken vessel. So we together, when we are a collective entity, we make up this vessel. We can sense something Kabbalists call the spiritual life of bestowal, this life beyond time, beyond space, beyond matter, connected to this guiding, governing quality of nature of bestowal. And when we are disconnected, shattered, we're like broken vessels. But everyone has a spark from that shattering. And that's why we ask ourselves questions. What's going on here? Are we connected through our thoughts? Is our thoughts doing anything in the world? Why is COVID happening right now? What is the purpose of this whole process that we're going through? And the great transition that we are going through right now is gradually becoming conscious of that spark that connects us all back to, he calls this to be revived. We have to be, our vessels need to be glued once again so we can be connected to that reality above time, space, and motion, to that reality of bestowal. Jay-Z Mantra just sent a question. Is it shattered in consciousness? So you want to say a word about that? Or
I'm not sure. How do you understand the question?
I think
What does it mean?
I think he or she is asking, hey Jay-Z, tell us where you're from, by the way. I think Jay-Z is asking whether the shattering is real. Like, are we actually shattered? And that's a very relevant question because
Sure. It
that.
depends on your perspective,
Mm,
where you are, because we exist in a complete field of endless light right now, but we don't feel it. If we had the right, like for example, if without an eardrum, there could be music in the room, but we wouldn't feel it. So, but I'm not sure I'm grasping the question actually.
no, I think that's kind of, I'd add a word about it, just that will maybe help Jay-Z. Um, that we need to do is discover that we are already connected. So in that respect, the shattering only happened in the consciousness of the created being. In the consciousness of human beings, we feel ourselves separate. But that is a deliberate process, like we just read from this beautiful quote from Rabash. We are in a situation where we feel separate because we now have this independent opportunity to rise back to the true consciousness of oneness, where we're all connected, we're all one, above time, above space, above matter. That's where we're gradually going. And yeah, I think I think maybe a week ago we talked about how many scientists are seeing this paradox that time has to be, there can't be time the way we experience it. There can't be, just like space is always there, all of time is all the time existing at all times. So why do we feel time? Well, it's a result of this, Kabbalah explains, it's the result of this shattering. It's a result of this conscious separation that we have from each other. That's why we
Let,
feel
let's
time. That's why we feel space. Yeah.
let's open it up, the mechanics of it a little bit more.
Mm.
So Jay-Z Mantra is from Miami. So what's up from Miami? I'm in cold and rainy New Jersey, and Asaf is over in the Middle East over there. So hello.
Yeah.
I don't remember meeting Jay-Z Mantra yet here. So hello, Z Mantra from Miami. So let's get into the schematic a little
All
bit
right.
of this whole process.
I'm
So
up for it. Go ahead.
okay, so all of reality, every building, every song, every book, every act of love, every act of hatred, every prayer comes from a thought.
Mm.
Okay, so um, and it all of those thoughts develop. Here we go again, everybody who's been traveling with us on this great transition journey, through four phases, four factors that combine together and determine what will, how that thought will develop. Bala Sulam, in the Freedom article, he talks about really beautifully about these four phases. Actually, in my new book in chapter 3, I tried to make it super, super simple. But so phase one is like the source. It's based on that Freedom article and just kind of compressed and stripped it away. Phase one is the essence, not a physical thing, for example. Okay, so for example, um, I don't know, a banana, anything. It's the it's the thing that's inside there that, as that banana goes through the cycles of being a banana, of growing and ripening and then rotting, and then becoming a seed, and then growing into a banana again, it'll never turn into an elephant. It'll never,
Right.
there's some, so it's called, we're going to call it the source. That's phase one. Okay.
Hmm.
So the essence of the thing, the inside of that is the potential of what will emerge. That's phase one. Okay, so let's think. I'm going to use a physical example because it's more something we can hold. I'll use like a banana, for example. Bala Lam uses wheat, but think about it in terms of thought too. Somehow hear the example, but imagine that everything that emerges into our reality, thoughts, desires, everything physical, they come through these four phases. So the second one is the inner software that operates on that source. So, for example, a banana, there's some software that operates on that source, that some information inside of it, like, for example, in a sperm, that says, okay, first this is going to pop out, then we're going to develop the spine, then we're going to do hands. You never,
Mm.
it's the banana has a software, has banana software that operates on that source and helps it develop to become to go through. So it'll change its clothing from seed to green to yellow, then to rot and turn brown, and then to seed again. It'll keep changing clothes. The source of the banana will keep changing its banana clothing, but that software that tells the source how to operate, that's called phase two. Okay. Phase three are things that enter the environment that affect the software. So the minerals in the ground, the water that falls, they enter in and operate on that software and then make the banana either be very sweet or make the banana be wilted and not so good. So those things, that's phase three. Phase four is a real estate developer who comes and knocks down the whole banana field in order to build a shopping mall, or a farmer who comes and tends to, from the outside, tends to that banana tree so that it grows. So what we have here is that our thoughts are, first of all, they're not really in our control unless we do something about it. We can't use willpower to try and control our thoughts. There is a source that's developing us through time. It's developing our species. We're an intricate part of nature. It's been happening over billions of years, and the nerve, the ego, the chutzpah would be the word, the audacity to think that now we're gonna stop the train because now in 2021, after 14 and a half billion years of evolution, I'm going to tell nature no. All of these negative thoughts, all of the thoughts we have are developing from nature. We are, most of what we do is in that fourth phase in our life. Right now, everybody kind of planted your source in this group, in this environment right now, and it's
Mm.
guiding your source. uh, when you were a teenager and you had your group of friends, and they wanted to do this on Friday night, and these were the kind of songs they listened to, and these were the movies you watched, and this is how you all kind of looked at parents. You either looked at parents, depending on your community, as you respected them, or you looked as parents, as a burden or whatever. All of these things just guide that that source. So in the same way, thoughts arise in us, and in order to, and because, like, who was it before who asked about, our people's unconscious
JC.
thoughts? Deborah. So
Debbie.
Deborah
Hmm.
asked, can negative
Hmm.
thoughts from random people affect us? Yes. So we're in a field that's constantly affecting us. That's why in our modern day, it's not enough. Like, I used to have a plan B that I was going to move to Costa Rica, but there's nowhere to run to anymore, really.
Mm.
Because all of humanity is so tied together now. So because, wow, this experiment, I don't know if the tools would be able to actually, this person who wanted to measure what happens at these events we do, I don't know if the
Mm.
tools would be able to
To, to,
fully
to,
measure. Probably not.
to catch them fully measure? No, of course. I,
No,
I
not
mean,
fully measure, but
the whole thing is just it's just a statistical kind of game, but I think the I appreciate the initiative of it, and I think it's an interesting try. If we it's interesting that we try, and it's an interesting try as well. But I see what you're saying, where it's like there's a difference in the level of measuring it, trying to measure something here. There's a problem, right? Like, why don't we feel directly the effect of our thoughts on the world?
I know, here's the thing, I think we do,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't, but we have the wrong Google Translate thing happening.
Uh-huh.
Like, we are
Mm-hmm.
feeling it, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the correct language for it, because the language by which I'm interpreting what's happening to me is based on, like, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So something would happen to me in a romantic relationship, and all of a sudden I'm thinking of, the Karate Kid, or I'm thinking of, Dirty Dancing, or I'm thinking of
Mm-hmm.
Titanic. We're dressing our thoughts with all of these.
Predetermined patterns,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
was that phase 3 or phase 4? Would that be maybe phase
these
4 on the
patterns.
thoughts?
Hmm.
Whatever it is,
The
so that the
Yeah,
thoughts are arising from
it'd be
nature,
three. Yeah, three.
so that the thoughts
Mm.
are arising naturally, and then we're dressing on them with the tools we have. Comes the
Mm-hmm.
Kabbalist and starts to give us a different language to what's happening to us. Because here's the thing, here's the amazing thing, everybody. Here's the amazing thing. Nature, like, the work is really nature's work, the creator's work. It requires a lot of effort on our part, but the work, nature's doing everything. We just need to understand like those 4 phases of development, right? We don't need to control the thought and manage the thought, and nature will develop all of the thoughts. All we need to do is understand clearly what's happening and how to dress on those thoughts with the correct forms, and then all of a sudden the whole reality that we perceive will appear. Imagine, what is it called, non-local phenomenon, where they measure that something happened.
Quantum entanglement is
Yeah,
what
so
you
there's Newtonian physics, which
like.
means,
Yeah,
like, I hit the cue ball, and then it hits this ball, and then it hits here, and I can measure and know where every ball is going to go.
yeah,
Right? There's this whole other field
right.
of science now that
It-
shows that when I do something, like the butterfly effect, if I do something here at the exact moment, 90,000 miles away, something is affected. Right?
yeah,
So
and
nature.
exactly. There we go. This is the level on which thoughts are happening and affecting.
Mhm.
They're on a causal level, and that's because our whole universe is a thought. But I don't think we'll have time to get into this today. Maybe we'll do this next time. But that's what's happening. That's, I think, now you really nailed it. Like the laws of nature. We're talking about laws of nature, not some airy fairy whatever. We're talking about laws of nature that activate, operate, and bring rise, give rise to all of the phenomenon that we see in this world from a deeper level. And that deeper level is connected not to our body, not to our biology, but to our thoughts and desires. That's the key, that's the entrance to that deeper causal level of reality. I saw a question here from Mary. Mary here was asking, so a part of our work is to control our thoughts and have only loving thoughts towards each other. What would you say to that? It's a good
I
question.
love this. I love this question.
Yeah.
It's from Mary. Do you know
From
where Mary's
Mary.
from?
Mary, we sometimes we call her Mary Spies, but
Oh,
there were at some point, I think the right way to say it, we were told, is Mary Spies.
Steve.
So
Okay. So Mary.
yeah.
Okay. So it's our
Hmm.
friend Mary.
Yeah.
Um, repeat the question again, please.
Hmm. So part of our work is to control our thoughts and have only loving thoughts towards each other.
Okay.
Hmm.
First of all, Mary, everything we're studying is only, there's nothing that's asked of a person that's totally impossible to do. Of course, that would be totally impossible to do. Here's the thing. Thoughts, ready, everybody? Here you go. Thoughts are, as Chaim translated, an upshot of desire. The
Hmm.
thoughts we have only serve our desire. So if we become hungry, the thoughts, the thoughts looking, how can I get food? Where can I get food? What can I do? If I don't have this, can I do this? Can I do this? If we want, if we feel an emptiness to find a partner in life. So the thoughts serve the desire. So all our work really is to make love important to us. If we make love and connection
Hmm.
important, if we desire
Hmm.
love and connection, then the thoughts, we just talked about those four phases. If the source, anyway, if love and connection is important, all of the thoughts that follow it will be in line with that. Now, how is that done? By planting ourselves, because from the side of nature, this is a whole other thing, but from the side of nature, we're only given kind of negative. What does that mean? But we're given the negative all the time, and us who are not who are looking to, who our goal is to rise to a spiritual degree above the degree of animal, our goal is to always add the positive. If we descended back down to being an animal or being a plant, everything would just be instinctual. We would only take as much as we need to live. We would eat when we were hungry, we would sleep when we were tired, we would mate when it was time to mate, and that would be our lives. But we're more than that. We are insatiable. That's the negativity, so to speak. We're endlessly empty. The purpose of the endless emptiness, right? A tiger is not hunting 24/7. The purpose of he's mostly hanging around. The purpose of our endless emptiness is that our goal is an endless fulfillment. So, and to arrive at it consciously. So we don't need to control our thoughts. And the short answer to your question is, as much as possible, to surround ourselves with people who value love and connection, and slowly our thoughts will aim towards that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, yeah. Okay. I'll add my advice. My quick advice as well. The the I mean, you're asking, should I think positive thoughts about others? I would say, yeah, try. Try. The Just try. It's a great experiment, and it's a great thing to try to be doing. But like,
all the time.
try as much as you can. Try as much as you can, especially towards people who are doing the same effort as you are. Meaning, you need people in this kind of environment like we have here, people who are interested in spiritual growth. But when you guys will start trying to think positive thoughts about each other, you may discover all kinds of things, whether you're successful at it, whether you can be successful at it. Because, see, the bottom line is we're not successful at thinking positively about each other by nature. We have to connect to a higher force of nature in order to be able to do that. So that effort is good. It will take you closer to finding that force that can actually do it for you. Anyway, we have a couple minutes here. What do you say? You wanna throw something else here into the mix?
Uh,
You wanna?
yeah, there was something else that I thought was really fun to add into this, and it goes to that point about that nature's doing the hard work. This is really the work of nature, and it's our work. It's our work to really understand what nature's doing
Mhm.
and to get into that. And that is, I want to advocate laziness a little bit.
Okay.
Um, art
I
and
already feel
science.
better. Already feel
Oh yeah.
great.
So
Mm-hmm.
art, science, music, painting, good feelings came when people didn't have to slave in the fields all day, when people didn't have to labor all day long,
Mm-hmm.
when we have some time, we can go and meet each other, we can go dance, we can listen to music, we start to have ideas, science, all kind of science, right? What's the thing about the apple fell, and who was that? The apple fell, was that also Newton? And he, kind of figured out gravity by watching an apple fall or something like that. Um, art. So besides physical labor, laboring all the time, all of these wonderful things in life develop from there. So if our goal is that people will have a correct attitude in life, will have a correct attitude towards spiritual pursuits, that this spiritual dimension, then we have to give people time, to work all day long and to slave
Right.
all day long. I,
Oh,
I, I I
I.
find with myself that if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like earning money, I feel useless. It's like it's just a plague that we all have. But we need to provide, people need to be provided with time to gather, to sit and to talk and travel. We don't need, not everyone needs millions of dollars. We just need to feel secure. There's that anecdote by the sages, it's better to sit and do nothing. We're
Mm-hmm.
constantly consuming in our life now. We're constantly producing, we're constantly consuming. But to stop, to look at nature, to think about life. And what do we call those people now? It's like, he's a lazy bum, right? He's like this. When we
Mm-hmm.
call people who sit and think and create and they're not earning money, we say they're like a bum. But these people have, um, there's some, uh, it's a very useful quality to not be pressured from the outside all of the time to make
Mm-hmm.
money, to do this, to do it, but from, if we sit with nature, with life, right? Because all of our thoughts come from that. Then once I have the pressure from the inside, that's the right time to go out and to do something and to create something. So then life kind of forces us, the creator, as we say in the wisdom of Kabbalah, demands from us. So
Yeah. It's crazy to it's crazy to think that we've developed such a culture that represses, in many ways, represses our ability to take a step back and just think and ponder and contemplate life, its purpose, and where it's going. We are constantly being pushed to not engage with that from the moment that you're little, and that you have this, typically at like 5 year old, 6, 7 years of age, you'd start asking really meaningful questions that children ask. Where am I? What's going on? What is this life for? Mommy, daddy, why are we alive? What's going on? And typically, they won't get an answer, definitely not a satisfactory answer. They'll be sent to, go do other things, go engage in things. And if they focus on it too much, they'll be considered weirdos in their societies. But isn't that what the whole human function in nature is about? We are put here to ask why we are here. And only by investigating our purpose and meaning in life, we can actually rise to a higher level of existence. And then, this is funny and crazy to think where we're living. All right. The music came on at the right time. No, it was the right time. Play it. You didn't find it? You're still looking?
No, but I wanted to say that I saw of some of our friends, Shannon from Kabu, and P. Marlin, and Kevin, and Raina from India, and Azrael, Asoke, a lot of friends that I recognize, and I saw some new names today, so I was really excited by that. So hello everybody, welcome. Great to see everyone here.
Yeah, everybody. We should, and we will talk more about the power of thought and our thoughts and where they're taking us, where they should be taking us. What should we do with them? I think maybe we'll tell us, guys. Tell us in the comments. Leave a comment or something if there's a specific question you want us to delve into on this topic or on other topics, as we are looking towards next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be here once again. Thank you, everyone, for being here. That's not the song, though. Now is the time, Seth. Now is the time. All right. See you Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Times come to wake from our slumber. Ignorance is not bliss if it gets you in trouble. Let's not pretend the world won't come to an end if we go on exploiting others with a devil-eyed grin. I'm guilty too, believe me, count me in. When we all accept the booby prize of a game we can't win. More simply said, don't do to others that which you hate is the beginning of a path to a positive fate. But don't wait, time's now where nature will bring the pain. Like a child who points a pin at their eye gets smacked on the hand. We can't go back to living life the same as it's been. Dying every day, hoping tomorrow will live. That day has come, wake and rise and see what joy we can give. In care of others, we'll discover what true happiness is. But first things first, we all as one of us come realize that the hate we see outside comes from behind our own eyes. United we stand and divided we fall. Divided we hammer, united we fall. United we stand and divided we fall. Divided we hammer, united we fall. United we stand and divided we fall. Divided we hammer, united we fall. United we stand and divided we fall. Divided we hammer, united we fall. Okay, let's just pretend for a second that everything's connected and it's also benevolent. Reality and truth fit for a dream. 8 billion lovers looking out for your well-being. No longer a need to concern for yourself, because in the new world, rich means building others' wealth. So everywhere you go, everyone you see is joyfully obsessed with taking care of your needs. When value is determined by who gives most, suffering and depression